I turned this piece a couple of weeks ago and did a video of it, taking it up to this point. So I stuffed it in a load of sawdust and dried it out for a bit, and then I thought, I'm just going to finish this off. When I last left it, I'd covered the outside in cellulose sanding sealer to try and stabilise some of the punky wood. So when I got it out, obviously there were some cracks. So the first thing I decided to do was to fill the cracks with some CA glue and sawdust. So now back on the lathe after the glue's dried off, and to finesse the outside. So I've used a homemade jam chuck for the tailstock drive, which just stops the wood being stressed when you turn it. So just finishing off the outside with a nice sharp spindle gouge. The time spent with the sanding sealer soaking into it has stiffened it up. So that got me a better finish, which was good, and then I thought I'd better check how thick the bottom was in order to decide whether I needed to hollow out more. And you can see there that with the depth measurement I've actually got about a 30 or 40 mil thick bottom. So I think I'm going to go back now to do some hollowing. So out comes the steady rest that I bought from Gary Rance. Thank you, Gary, as a second-hand item. I think he probably had it made by somebody for him. It's basically 3 skateboard wheels on a frame, and the advantage of it is that you can get in there and there's no worry that the thing is going to come flying off the lathe. So the steady rest is set up on the lathe bed. When you use the steady rest, you have to have it in line with the bedway. So I've removed the tailstock and I'm going straight in line with the bed. I've got the stop go button handy, and I've also got the Phil Irons tool gate on. Sorry about the camera vibration, it's because I keep banging it with my noodle. I thought I'd try the Crown Revolution and the handle with the steady bar screwed onto it. I wasn't feeling comfortable with that, and I'd got a little pimple in the bottom. So I thought I'd swap over and go to the Kelton Hollower. This is my biggest diameter hollowing tool. It's a 19mm shaft with a very heavy handle. So with a vessel like this that's about 250mm deep, you need something, particularly seeing as how there's an overhang there because of the steady rest, you need something that's pretty damn rigid. And whilst the Kelton Hollower, as with all the hollowers, can be very effective, it's quite easy to find that you get a mound in the middle. So I stuck the camera down again, and you can see there that there's like a dome in the middle, which is quite tricky sometimes to get rid of. You have to kind of have a left to right movement with the hollowing tool. You've got to kind of get it right on the centre in order to get it to bite. So I decided to swap tactics a bit, so I'm turning the lathe now in reverse, so it's turning clockwise, and I'm using the Crown Revolution system with the cut carbide cutter on it to just thin down those walls. So that quite well thinned out, time for a bit of sanding with the Simon Hope Arbor system. And because the wood is quite punky, it needed some spot sanding using the local spotlight to highlight the areas where the punky wood had plucked. So I just brought up the tailstock jam chuck in order to provide a bit more support for when I'm doing the bulk sanding. You'll notice there's some black strips on it now. These are strips of old neoprene that I've got, which I've glued on, just so when you wind that tailstock in, you've got something which has got a little bit of give to it. So after it was sanded, I dumped a whole load of lemon oil on it and left it overnight. It absorbed it like a sponge. So I'm just now starting to remove some of the waste around the bottom, ready to reprofile the base and start to think about parting it off. So with a bit of the meat removed from the bottom, I'm now going to use the Simon Hope deep hollowing system jig, which is a slide bar with the mandrel on it, which goes into the headstock. I've made my own additional wooden bung to make sure that it can fit the larger mouth of this particular hollow form.
It's okay.
Just a quick check to make sure that the bottom is slightly concave so that it doesn't rock when it's finished. And then a little bit of detailing with a point tool just to put some 3 rings on the bottom. And then sanded and some Libra-On finishing oil put on, a couple of coats and then left overnight. And I'll just use a pencil to darken up the grooves as I can't turn it fast enough for a bit of old Formica to burn a mark into it. So I've let it dry overnight, then buffed it up a bit and put a bit of wax on the outside, and then it's time to hand cut off the base and put it away to fully dry and hope it doesn't split. So there we have it, all natural, some beautiful spalting and figuring. I just hope that this one isn't going to crack. I've done what I can. It's no thicker than 10mm at the bottom and about 7mm around the sides. But it's still over 20% moisture content, so plenty of sawdust, brown paper, stick it under the bench for a few months.